In today's episode, we're speaking to Sarah Hagstrom. Sarah is the founder of the Coach and Grow Co., where she empowers health and wellness coaches to connect with their inner confidence, align their offerings with ideal clients, and implement time-efficient strategies for marketing and run their programs with ease and abundance. She is known for teaching new coaches how to create and launch their programs in 5 hours a week and do so without scarcity and instead from a place of love. Let's speak to Sarah and find out how she changed her life by changing her mindset. Let's find out. Welcome. This is Gull, your money mindset expert. And today I'm speaking to Sarah Hagstrom. Sarah, did I pronounce that correctly?
You nailed it. You got it.
Oh, wonderful. Sarah, everyone's heard how amazing you are, but please, in your own words, share with everybody what it is that you do.
Of course. Thanks for having me. So I am Sarah, the founder of the Coach and Grow Co., where we help those in the health and wellness space or those who want to enter into the health and wellness space create their dream coaching business online. And we really focus on a 4-part strategy, helping them create this business working 5 hours a week, doing work that they love.
Fantastic. So Sarah, talk us through, how did you end up, surely you didn't wake up one day and think I'm going to be an online coach or an online consultant. So what led you to be here right now? And when we were speaking off camera beforehand, you mentioned you grew up in Washington, but you ended up in California. So talk us through what's been your journey.
Yeah, of course. So I got into health and wellness and becoming a health coach from my own health challenges and my own health struggles, as like many of us do in the health coaching space. We struggle with our health, we want to get healthy, and then we want to help others, do the same thing. We're like, oh my gosh, this is so great. Like, I want to help other people do that. And so for me, I grew up in a really dysfunctional home. And at the time, I really thought that I was the only one. We didn't have Instagram. People weren't sharing. They weren't being vulnerable like they are today, which I love because I had a lot of shame around how I grew up. I grew up without a lot of money, without a dad. My mom struggled with addiction and drugs. And so I didn't have a lot of healthy relationships. I didn't see that modeled. There was a lot of stress, chaos. There's a lot of processed foods. And so I struggled with a lot of digestive issues. Now I know with my background in health and wellness, a lot of it came from trauma. But on my journey, I found, different foods. Like I found a plant-based diet, and I started making these changes to what I was eating. And, there was this point where my husband, at the time, he was my boyfriend, he was like, maybe you would feel better if you didn't eat M&Ms, like a big Costco sized bag of M&Ms every day, and I was like, stop it, don't tell me that. It's not the food. And then I got to a point where I was ready to make the transition. And he actually introduced me to a documentary. It's called Food Matters. I don't know if you've seen it. Have you seen it, Gull?
No.
It's an older one, but the concept, now the time we're recording this is everybody kind of knows, is like, hey, the food that you consume can play an impact on how you feel and your body. Yeah. Right. And at the time, I like I said, I was eating M&Ms, like I was eating all of these things, which, like, not saying that those are bad. I'm not a fan of like good food, bad food. But at the time I had no idea, I would be stressed. I would drink a beer. I would be eating fast food, like all of these things. And I would just have the worst stomach pain. It got so bad I couldn't go to work. At the time I was a junior in college. I couldn't go to class. And so he introduced me to this documentary, and my mind was blown. I was like, wow, food can play a role in how I feel. And so I started changing my diet. And with that was kind of the first step in changing how I thought, my mindset, and all of these things. And at the time, I was applying to law school. I was working at a law firm as a legal clerk, and just going down this path. And, while I was there, so many people that I was working with, so many lawyers were like, Sarah, you don't want to do this. This is stressful. Like, you're not going to like this. They just kept saying that. And I have always had this mentality of like, watch me. That's part of like my podcast. It's like, why can't I watch me? Right.
Mm.
And so I was like, no, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. And I just had this moment where I was like, actually, I don't want to do this. Like, I don't want to be a lawyer. I want to go into health and wellness. And so that is kind of what started me on my path. And what brought me to Southern California was transitioning. I finished college and then I went down this path of becoming a health coach and helping people with their health, which turned into what I'm doing now, is helping health coaches with their business.
Wow. Okay. Where did you actually go and think, okay, I need to do this for myself? I mean, if you're working as a law clerk, you're in the corporate environment, you're used to having the 9 to 5. How did you break free from that mindset into going, okay, not only did you change your expert, your area of expertise, you went from legal space into health and wellness, which are complete opposite poles. But also you went from employee into being self-employed and working for yourself. So how did that pan out, and how did you come to that conclusion? Because that is that's, unless you have a lot strong financial backing, that is quite stressful.
Yeah, I mean, it was gradual. It wasn't right away. There's a lot of other steps, between that we can talk about. And timeline, it took me about 3 years to go full time working for myself. So I think that's really important to share. And I think another thing is I was young. I was young, right? So I'm going to be 35 this year. At the time I was 22 and I didn't have a lot of responsibilities. I didn't really have, a mortgage. I didn't have all of these things that, as we get older, we have to think about. And so I think there is some beauty in that, just being honest, like, I didn't know any better. I was like, okay, I can do anything. And, even though I grew up in a very chaotic home, my mom, she really loved me and she always taught me, hey, you can do anything you set your mind to. Hey, the sky's the limit. Like, be a leader, do what you want to do. And that was really instilled in me. And so when I realized all of these signs, everybody saying, hey, you don't want to actually be a lawyer, like it's not really that great. And no offense to people who are lawyers, but that was like my journey and my process. And I think that was, I know, some of your listeners believe in like the universe and signs and divine timing. And I really think that was the universe saying, hey, this isn't the path for you. And I just had enough little nudges to say, oh yeah, you're right. This isn't what I truly want to do. And so for me, it was just like enough signs saying like, hey, you can do whatever you want to do. Do you want to do this? No, let's do something else. And starting to make that transition.
Okay, I think that's one thing. At least you recognize the signs, because there's a lot of people, especially at the age of 22, that's really, really young to be able to discern the universal signs. Think, oh, okay, this is not my life path. This is my life path. So that's congratulations on that. But I do agree with you. I think it's more difficult when you do have the responsibilities of children and mortgage, bills and loans and so forth. Then you have to think more strategically in terms of how can you leave your current employment. And add to the fact that you still took 3 years to transition over fully, that makes more sense to me, so that you're not just jumping the gun, you're not just taking the plunge. Because I see far too many people take the plunge without the forward planning, and then they really put a lot of pressure on themselves, and then they suffer from depression. Not that, by the way, when you do become an entrepreneur, nothing's guaranteed. I think I did. I probably did this the latter way, but I was successful. I did really, really well financially. And then you still get, you get curveballs from the universe and things happen, and entrepreneur's journey is never smooth anyway. One day you're pulling your hair out and thinking, oh my God, I'm going to go bankrupt. And the next minute, oh my God, I've just become super successful. So you do pendulum between the two. I'm saying this with the tongue in cheek, but yes, it's not for the faint-hearted. But it still helps to have an element of planning, an element of strategy, and some financial backing. And
I find that if you don't have that, then you are making decisions that aren't in your highest good, right? It's a lot harder to stay in this place of abundance and doing work you love and taking opportunities that are in alignment for you versus being in that space of desperation and fear and feeling like I have to do this because I don't have any money and I don't know how I'm going to make it. And the energy, like in the coaching space, I always say coaching is about relationships, you know? And so in the coaching space, if you have this desperate energy, it's going to repel your ideal clients from you. They're going to feel it. And so you want to be in this space of, you know, I get to work with who I want to work with, who I'm best suited to work with. And I find that that is a lot better if you are in this space of abundance. I'm taken care of, everything is working out for me. And like you're saying, it's just easier to be in that space when you have a little bit of a cushion, when you have a little bit of a strategy and a plan.
Definitely, most definitely. I think that's very, very important. Otherwise, I think that far too many people take the plunge and then they stress and they worry and they don't concentrate on the passion anyway. And then when they get into the mindset of scarcity and lack and the energy of lack and scarcity, then it's very difficult to break free from that, because they need the money, they need the business to work in order for them to have the money to continue. But because they're in the lack and scarcity energy, they are unable to attract the right sort of clients. If they do get the clients, they're not for high, they're not for highest good and so forth. And then they end up resenting and being very upset with themselves and the universe for being in that, financial predicament. And money, it's one of those things, you need to have money in your life. It's just simple as that. You need to have a comfortable flow, so I would say, and everyone's element of comfort is different. So you need a certain amount of money which allows you to be comfortable within your lifestyle, whatever your lifestyle is. But if you are used to, for example, if your children are used to going to the cinemas every week and having that kind of takeouts and so forth, and then you're at the situation where you can't even afford, you're barely able to pay the bills, then that is going to take a toll on you. It may not take a toll initially in the first couple of weeks, but in a long period of time, it's going to have an impact on you. I think this is something that this is why you have to plan out, and something has to give, and you have to work around it at some point. I think it's important. And then you have to actually, you have to have contingency plans as well, because the things may not go as planned after 6 months. Things are always changing. The platforms are changing, and social media changes so rapidly. It's unbelievable. So let's talk about this now. So how did you go about building a business? How did you? You didn't get any formal training for business. So how did you learn and build your business?
Yeah, that's a great question. I would say that was the most challenging thing for me. And I would imagine it is for a lot of entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
Because I grew up in this home where my parents didn't finish college. And so I was the first one in my family to graduate from university. And so when I was then like, okay, actually, I'm not going to go to law school, I'm going to start a business, all of these limiting beliefs came flooding through. I'm not capable. I'm not smart. How am I ever going to figure out how to run a business? I have no examples, because I would listen to these entrepreneurs and they would share all of these stories about, my dad was an entrepreneur, I've always been entrepreneurial. And I was like, I have none of that going for me. And so that was something I really had to work on constantly. I was like, affirmation, like rewrite this, like every day, like just flooding, like really, like I would have loved your podcast, Gull, because I feel like you just listening to examples of struggle and triumph and affirmations and standing in faith, like all of that was so powerful for me on my journey. So anything I could find, I was consuming it. Books, podcast, YouTube, all of that, just trying to figure it out. And to be honest, it went through a lot of evolutions. I started just working however I could in the wellness space. When I transitioned out of law, before going full-time for myself, I worked at Whole Foods because I just wanted to get in something, like in an industry that was closer to what I wanted to be doing. Right. And so I transitioned to working at Whole Foods, even though I wasn't teaching at the time or coaching. I was like, this is wellness. Let me get into this space. And then from there, I talked to the manager, and they let me teach and host classes. They had like this kitchen. And so they let me teach there, so then I started to like teach and coach, and just little by little, and then I kind of like worked with my husband and we created a nonprofit, like no big deal. And like, we're working in schools. And then the parents were like, oh, can I hire you? So it's just like all of these like little steps that led me to eventually health coaching online, working for myself full time. But really like learning like the business, a lot of it was trial and error, investing in programs and coaching, which, you know, got me to where I wanted to go. And then I had to learn something new, invest something new, shed something that wasn't working. You know, I talked to a lot of entrepreneurs and they're like, oh my gosh, like this is so masculine. I've been doing it this way. It doesn't work for me. Like, I can't believe I spent all this time doing that. And like, I really think entrepreneurship, it's an opportunity for us to evolve, like evolve as humans, evolve as people, figure out what we like, what we don't like, keep going, you know? And so I just think that that's been my journey. It's like one step leads to the next. I shed a little bit, I grow a little bit.
Oh, and I love that. I absolutely love that. And it's true. On the entrepreneurial path, you basically, all you see is the 10 steps ahead of you. Even if you think you can see 100 steps, I promise you, by the time you get to step 8, that path would have changed and you have no idea where you are. If anything, if you think you can see 100 steps down the road, you're more than likely to be coming across a pitfall where you have to change your strategy or something else, or a curveball's hit and you're completely doing 180 and going the opposite direction. That's the entrepreneurial journey. It is. And it's about evolving your character, because a person, it's not just who you are, it's who you become in the process. The person who you started off being, working in the health and wellness for yourself is not the same individual sitting in front of me now, because you've evolved as your business has evolved. You've grown as your business has grown. And I think one of the biggest areas that I think that has allowed me to grow as an individual has been as an entrepreneur. I think this has been like doing a PhD in business. I'm sure that people who are running these successful businesses, I don't have an MBA, but I'm pretty sure that after running my business, going through all the ups and downs, the do's and don'ts, actually doing more don'ts than do's actually, and learning from them. I probably can walk in and probably do an MBA now because of the experience, not because of the academic learning. And I think this is what we learn as entrepreneurs, but you have no option. You have to learn and move on. I mean, I think we are quite blessed in this era. One, because of the online space, because we are able to access material and knowledge across the board, across from different people, plus the coaching, with the rise of the coaching industry, good and bad and ugly alike. But it has allowed us to learn and really learn from people who there are some great people out there, and learn strategies which help us to evolve, and which otherwise we'd be going to universities and learning, spending 4 years and doing marketing or whatever else. And so I think this has been a great, era in terms of, the universal time for us to learn and grow. But having said that, you have to grow. And I think grow is the operative word here, because if you're not learning, if you're not growing on a daily basis, then you're stagnant.
Yeah. I think entrepreneurs, people who get into entrepreneurship, if you love like learning and growth, like it's a great path for you. But those who are like, I feel like I'm good as I am, I'm perfect, like I'm where I'm supposed to be. This is me. I'm totally evolved. I know everything. I think it's going to be a really challenging road for that person.
Agreed. I mean, I was having a conversation with my brother yesterday, and we are two different people. And I was giving him some, let's do this and this and this, and we were working on a project together. And he literally had to stop me and goes, stop. I'm not where you are at the moment. And I'm so glad he said it, because he's my older brother, but he's even though he started his business journey before I did, but he had time off for various personal reasons, and he's come back into business. And he literally just stopped me and goes, look, I'm not where you are at the moment. Let me deal with this, what we have at the moment, and you can hold on to the vision of what you want to do, but bring it back to me at a later date. And I was so glad that, and I was very proud of him for actually acknowledging the fact that he wasn't there mentally. His mindset wasn't evolved to the level that I was. And I was thinking of, 7 figures on a monthly basis. And he said, look, let me get to 6 figures on an annual basis. And then we'll figure out 6 figures on a monthly basis. Then we'll have a conversation. At the moment, let me figure out and work on this right now. And that is so important. But the fact that he acknowledged the fact, that he needed to learn and grow, I'm super proud of him. I'm sure he will. But it's something that a lot of people would think, well, that's not for me, just to turn their mind off. Whereas if you have a growth mindset, you'll think, oh, I have to learn. I'm not there yet, but I can be. And I have to grow and learn a bit more, maybe from work experience, but maybe from books, some other things. But this is the thing, if we accept the fact that we are constant work in progress, and doesn't matter how much we know, and I mean, I always say the more I learn, the more I realize I don't know. And so, my knowledge is so minuscule compared to everybody else's. But that's a great thing, though. You say, Sarah, I always say, if I'm the smartest person in the room, I'm in the wrong room.
Yeah. I mean, I love that story about your brother and his awareness, because I know for my journey, when I first got into entrepreneurship, I would watch people, successful multimillionaires, I would watch them give advice, and I would try to do what they're doing. And I couldn't do what they're doing because I had no experience. I had no team. I didn't have the budget, and so I think a big part of why it took me so long in order to go completely full time on my entrepreneurial journey is because I was trying to be where I wasn't. I was trying to skip all of these steps, and I had no awareness. Like your brother, you're like, oh, I bet my brother will get there. I hope he gets there. Oh, I have complete faith he will get there. Like having that awareness, it's everything. It's huge.
Yeah, for sure. And I think this what gives people listening who are thinking of transition over, or who have transitioned over and are struggling, as they realize there's a lot more to this than just building a business. It's about literally doing a PhD in personal development same time as building a business. And so I think it'll give them hope that you and I have both been through this, and we're still going through it, by the way. So we are still learning, we're still growing, and we're still dealing with it. And it's a lifelong journey. We're going to be doing it. And I remember reading a recent quote by Sir Richard Branson, I should say. And he's an avid reader. And he still talks about learning, and he's learning all the time from his team and other people and so forth. So if Sir Richard Branson is still learning, then you and I, we've got a lot to learn. Well, on that note, let's wrap up. It's let's find out where and how on the internet can we connect with you, Sarah?
Yeah, of course. So you can come over to thecoachandgrow.co. That's my website, and you'll see lots of resources, lots of stories. I interview health and wellness coaches about their journey to success. What happened, what was the roadmap. You can also find me on Instagram. I spend a lot of time on Instagram, and it's just my name. So it's Sarah_Hagstrom. Those are both great places to connect with me.
Wonderful. So if you're listening to us on the podcast, then the links that Sarah's just mentioned will be in the show notes. And if you're watching us on YouTube, then down below in the description section, you'll have her the links as well. Go check her out and see if she can help you to build your wellness and health and wellness business. Thank you so much, Sarah, for being such an amazing guest with us today. We have to have you back on Money Talkies, but today it's been fabulous talking to you.
Thanks, Gull.
And thank you for listening to me and Sarah today on Fire the Future. I will be back with another amazing guest, finding out how they change their life by changing their mindset. Until the next time we meet, this is Gull signing off. Take care and bye for now.